All right, let's talk a little 49ers. Should we talk a little Niners? What do you expect in this game? I started off the stream just talking about how this game is a weird game. Like if you're a gambler, I would say stay away from this game. I think the Niners are 4-point favorites, but I think it's a stay away weekend in the NFL for the most part. It's just hard to predict who's going to show up, who's not going to show up. I've looked at some of the betting trends. Sometimes the teams that need to win in week 18 fall prey to the teams that have nothing to play for at all. So it's a very difficult weekend to kind of predict. Like the Ravens are playing the Steelers today, and the Steelers are favored over the Ravens at 1:30 Pacific by 3 points. And yet the Ravens haven't lost in a long time. The Ravens are 13-3. The Ravens are at home. They're 6-2. The Steelers are not nearly as good, but they need to win, I think, or they would like to win for playoff seeding and how it all shakes out. And yet Tyler Huntley's a pretty good quarterback, and the Steelers are favored by 3. I don't know about that. I mean, whether the Ravens going to lay down. I know there's no Lamar, but I mean, you see what I'm saying? It's like this is a very, very difficult week to predict
because there's nothing to play for essentially.
Right.
I just this is kind of on the league, in my opinion, right? We're fans, we covered the game, but we are fans, and it's our job to be able to be truthful about where the competitive context lies inside of each week, right? And it's hard to do that when you feel as though that the games really don't matter. I don't want to get on this whole tangent about the 17 games because that's not the point. But for right now, just the way the cookie crumbles and how things have fallen out, there's really nothing to really bear out as far as where teams are in the playoff standings. And there is something to be said about resting your guys versus playing your guys. But I feel like that's the real narrative, not is this game competitive, right? Because whoever wins or loses this game, nothing changes for anybody. So I feel like the real conversation is how are we going to play our last real action before essentially having a 3-week bye, right? So they're not really going to play this week, right? And they're going to have a full bye before the playoffs start. So really, this is our last time seeing these boys for a while, if you think about it, right? So this is going to be, for me, I'm going to be gauging this game and trying to read the tea leaves for what the layout is on this time off that they're going to have. That's the big motive for me, right? Like, who wins or loses this game doesn't necessarily strike me, but I'm going to be paying attention to who he does choose to start. Who does Kyle choose to play early? Who does he pull? Who does he pull early? Who does he decide needs to play a whole game that's a starter? Who doesn't he? Why? I'm going to be ready to talk about those situations and maybe keeping track of what happens in this game and then kind of bearing out, well, all right, we saw that Christian didn't play all of week 17. He's had essentially 3 weeks off, right? And he should be ready to go coming into our opening game with whoever we see in the second round of the playoffs, right? So that's what I'm going to be looking at. It'd be you know what I'm saying, Larry? Like, it would be disingenuous to really try to competitively go at this game. Like, who's going to win?
That's what I'm saying. Don't bet it. Don't bet it. But
it would be crazy to bet this game.
It's a weird thing. And I was mentioning before you jumped in was just that, okay, so I'm looking at the Niner depth chart and the way it's penciled out. They say probably no Juwan Jennings, no Trent Williams, no Brock Purdy, no Christian McCaffrey. Ross Dwelly still has that high ankle sprain. He's not going to go. That's on offense. On defense, no Eric Armstead, no Jair Brown, still has the knee sprain, no Ambry Thomas.
Yep.
Everybody else on the defense, I think, is going to go. You saw. We'll get into the Jason Verrett injury, but he's out for the year now. Hurt his shoulder in practice. That's so unfortunate. Jalen Moore is kind of an interesting guy up front because I think he's I saw him in the locker room, and he seemed to be in good spirits. And I think
How's that concussion coming?
Well, that's what I'm saying. There's been in the last 24 hours, there's been indications that Trent Williams is not going to go, and Jalen Moore is the backup at left tackle. So to me, that says that Jalen Moore is going to go. So I think Moore is going to go, and Williams is going to sit. So it's like, now we have a somewhat of a handle on who's going to go. But then you also have, the fact of the matter is, the Niners could easily play the Rams in the playoffs. So Kyle's not going to want to show anything. And then you've got only so many guys that you can put in the game. And so you might want to go to your backups at some point. But then you got to make sure that if your starters come out of the game and kind of cool off, that they don't have to get forced back in the game because of an injury. So, I mean, you got to play your starters a decent amount of time. I don't know. It's a really weird game. I mean, if you had a great plan of attack against the Rams, would you even use it? Knowing that if the Rams, pull an upset.
Yeah, we're literally about to see him again.
Yeah, it'll be the Rams and Niners at Levi's in the divisional round in 3 weeks. So I don't know. I mean, I'm not sure how this is a very odd game to kind of handicap. And it's a hard game to really just break down and say, it's going to be this or it's going to be that. And every coach may handle things a little differently. And so, you don't know exactly how Shanahan's going to handle things. I don't know. I'm not sure what to expect in this game. The Rams, by the way, if you just looked at them when they're playing all their top players, they've scored 24 points or more now in 6 straight games. There's only 3 teams in the league all season that have done that: the Niners, the Ravens, and the Rams. So, that the Rams in the playoffs could be quite a bit different with Stafford than the Rams, that team that we see tomorrow. So it's like I'm not even sure what to expect. It's like I'm not even sure what to root for other than health. I don't want to see anybody get hurt. But I really don't care. I've seen the Niners get destroyed in week 18, and it means nothing. I've seen them absolutely annihilate teams in week 18, and that means nothing. So I don't know. I mean, Shanahan and the coaches, Wilks and others have said, hey, we want to go into the playoffs with some momentum, but come on, man. If you don't play your starting quarterback or your MVP candidate running back or, your best defensive lineman or one of your top corners and your left tackle, are you really putting your best foot forward? I mean, but maybe it would give the team confidence if they won big anyway, despite the fact they're playing all their backups or playing their backups a large percentage of the time. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure exactly how to gauge this one tomorrow.
All right. Well, I'll say this. This would be a good game to see where our depth is, right? I'd like to see us win a game with depth. That would be good. That would be cool to see. It'd be good to see Jordan Mason get a full game, right?
What if he gets a full game, coach, and he dominates? Doesn't that? Oh, if you're Kyle, doesn't that immediately peg the question of where the hell has this guy been all year?
No, because football is not a one-game sport. That's the thing that sucks about football, is that it sucks and it's cool, but it's like you could do it once, right? But immediately everybody's going to go to the consistency. And there's too many things around this game that would just validate a Jordan Mason 200-yard day, right? If he had all right, let's say, all right, what would be crazy for you? With dominates. For me, dominating would be 20 plus carries. Let's put him at 23, 24 carries.
Anything over $150, man. If you
180.
The guy rumbles for 23 carries for 170 and 2 touchdowns. I think that's going to make people in the post game go,
Yeah, but it's only one game,
Jordan Mason. We should have seen Jordan Mason.
It's hard to say that where we still, but what did we lose?
Well,
what did we lose by not playing them? You see what I'm saying? We got the number 1 seed. Everybody's relatively healthy. What did we lose by the usage of Jordan Mason? Kyle still got him up his sleeve for when he does use him. He could that could be a gigantic fuck you to us. Right? It's I used him. I finally used him, and he was great. Now shut up. You know how Kyle is. He's definitely going to use that angle.
Yeah, but I mean, your CMC is right now dinged up, so it's like, I think if Jordan Mason goes off, it begs the question of, man, you could have had a healthier CMC come playoff time if you had just utilized this cat. Instead, you didn't, and now we're hoping that CMC can rest up in a week and be fresh enough to be himself come playoff time. I'm just saying they took a risk. They took a risk by playing McCaffrey as much as they did this year, and it's probably going to work out. But I do think it's going to be interesting to see JP Mason, because Mason to me looks talented, fresh, energetic, and ready to rumble. And I think the only thing that's been keeping JP Mason down is Kyle Shanahan. If JP Mason actually played, I think he would have been really good. And if he plays in this game, I think he's going to show everybody what he really is. And people are going to be like, what the heck? Where was this guy all year? I mean, think about it. If you had another, let's just say, to me, if you say, why, Krug, what does he look like to you? He looks like Marshawn Lynch. He looks like a powerful 240-pound rumbler, kind of bow-legged, but fast, tough, good body lean, tons of energy, lots of second effort, all kinds of power, run through arm tackles. He's going to have all kinds of yards after contact. I'm not saying he's beast mode, but he's in that, like, if you've never seen him before and I'm trying to describe him, I'd say, yeah, man, it's kind of like he's kind of like a Marshawn Lynch. Maybe even a little bigger, right? What was Marshawn? 220, 225?
You know what he reminds me of?
Who?
Marion Barber.
Yeah, that's a good call. I've used that comparison in the past.
Yeah,
you're right.
I think Marshawn
runs upright, runs hard.
Yeah, Marshawn, I feel like everybody that runs hard kind of gets like the beast mode moniker. But one thing about Marshawn that I feel like he was very special that I don't think Jordan Mason has is Marshawn had remarkable center of gravity. Like he had such a wide base, and it was so hard to
great feet.
Remarkable feet. He was a jump cut slasher with crazy vision. He could deliver a blow off either shoulder, off either foot. There was never a time where you could catch him off kilter and he wasn't ready to be rooted into the ground and deliver a blow. I mean, he was a menace. Marshawn Lynch was a special runner, but Marion Barber was a special runner too. But I feel like Marion Barber was more his acceleration to the point of attack was what really kind of built his physicality. Marion Barber wasn't that big of a back, but he was remarkably physical. He was always trying to go downhill. He broke tackles, but he wasn't a tackle breaker. You know what I mean? Like, people had to get hands on him and then he would break those tackles, but he wasn't necessarily running through people like Marshawn was. And that's what I kind of see out of Jordan. Marshawn was special, but Jordan is more of, if I see you, I'm going to run through you, right? And I need a good head of steam. I need those 3 steps to get to the line of scrimmage so I can hit a crease and bust it wide open. Marshawn was more along the lines of, I'm going to pick and pop and slash. And if you get in my way, you're going to feel something, but I'm trying to score. Marshawn, the thing about Marshawn is that he was very physical, but in his prime, he was a home run hitter. He had a home run threat. I don't see that out of Jordan, but I do see that physicality out of Marion Barber with Jordan Mason. I see that. And Marion Barber was a dog up front. I mean, do you remember that play? What was it? Monday night? It was a Monday night game, I believe. Marion Barber ran like 22 yards to get a 3-yard gain. He like backed up, got pushed back into the end zone, broke like 4 or 5 tackles. I want to say it was versus the Eagles. This is off the top of my head right now. Pause. But what I'm saying is that I feel like that Marion Barber is more akin to Jordan Mason. Still great runners.
You know, it's interesting. You said that Mason is not necessarily going to run away from you, or he had a 26-yard run against, was it Dallas? Was it Dallas that he ran 26 yards for the touchdown. He also in his career has a 55-yard run. So he you know, I'm
maybe we got to see that.
I'm wondering how good Jordan Mason really is. I'm wondering, and I think I can't. To me, the one thing I want to see, give him 5 carries. Give him 5 carries in a row. You know, give him a few. You know, let him get a rhythm.